Thank you for having me on, brother. I really appreciate it.
Of course, and we appreciate you being here. So first off, just tell me what was going through your mind as you started to see the images coming in out of Israel there with missiles, and a lot of them coming into frame.
Yeah, because the difference is they're not rockets. You know, the rockets they were shooting into Israel prior to this, those are basically they're fairly crude. They'll kill you, but they are something that's made out of basically sewer pipes or water pipes that the Israelis send into Gaza in those areas, and then they send them back to them in the form of of rockets, and you basically light a fuse and shoot them, and they sort of go in a direction they hope. But these were ballistic missiles. These were something that was shot over another country to get to Israel. So there's a whole different trajectory. Of course, immediately I checked with some of my people that would know. And in fact, these things, they could have the capability of nuclear payload. And that's something you worry about, of course, because if that happens, then it's, Katie bar the door, brother. It's all on everywhere. And these are radicals. And I immediately thought, too, 4 years ago, Iran was basically bankrupt, and now they're flourishing in the oil trade because we let them do that. Just a lot of things in my mind. And I reached out to some members of my Jewish community, and some of them reached out to me. Most of them don't ever vote for me, but they like my support of Israel, so that's cool. And I'm cool with that. We've been lifelong friends, so I understand that. But and I pray. I'm a Christian. I pray for Israel. I pray for the people's safety. I've been there. And I always hear people say things, and I guess they're very naive. I live in East Tennessee in Knoxville, and they always say, it's just like I felt as safe as I was in Knoxville. I said, yeah, if Maryville, Tennessee had 1,000 rockets pointed at you, it's not a safe place. If you look on the map, there's such a small little country, and I felt. And I knew we had the Iron Dome and the David Sling. And there's 4 or 5 different layers of that were, and they were apparently very successful. But then again, I thought about the fallout from those things, because every time they blow one of those up, something's going to hit the ground. But the Israelis are pretty slick with this. Everybody, of course, has cell phones, and when they get an alert, they know they've got to get in a shelter within about a minute, because they know that something's incoming. And those are just all the thoughts that kind of went through. And honestly, I called my wife and daughter, and I said, keep an eye on the news, honey. I said, because if this thing escalates, y'all need to get home. Let's get back to the farm. And because this has worldwide impact. And this shows you, though, the lack of diplomacy that we have and the forethought that we have. If we had shut Iran down with the oil that we had actually under the Trump administration, that they would not have been able to do this kind of activity. They could have thrown rocks over the border probably, but we have funded this, and America has is our economic might, and I wished we would use it more, because currently I'm afraid it's going to end up with boots on the ground in some of these conflicts, and those will be American boats, and I don't want that at all.
And speaking kind of on that topic, what do you think of the U.S. and U.K. involvement here, as they did step in to shoot down a lot of those missiles? What do you think of the overall action there by the U.S.?
I think it was appropriate. We have a long-standing alliance with Israel, regardless of what they're spewing out on our college campuses today. We do have a long-standing friendship with the Israelis, and I think we should continue to honor that. Also, it's on the pure economic side of it. I was talking to some Jewish friends of mine that were more knowledgeable of things. Our military, we do a lot of testing, and there's no way a laboratory testing or out in the desert somewhere is one thing, but in real life, that testing is done in war. And currently, that's where a lot of our stuff is perfected over there. And the Israelis, frankly, welcome it. that Iron Dome was ours and the Israelis' technology, and England or Europe or whoever else's involvement in that, I think is equally appropriate, because it doesn't serve anybody if there's war over there. Because again, the oil, everything else we're all dependent on it, and I think ultimately that's at the base of a lot of it. But for me, it's just it's a relationship that this country has with Israel.
What do you think of the announcement just days ago from the U.S. government, really from the White House, that several thousand additional troops are going to be sent over the Middle East to kind of help with the situation there and keeping Israel safe? I want to get your take on that, because you talked about boots on the ground there.
Yeah. The current administration they kind of played cute with that, saying we're not going to put boots on the ground. So they put this crazy pier out there, to get to Gaza. And it didn't work, obviously. And then they stole a lot of the things that were shipped into Gaza, and it just went to feed the leadership of Hamas. They're billionaires in Qatar or whatever you want to call it. And they have, I think, boots on the ground. Netanyahu does not want Americans there because our rules of engagement get people killed. This was proven in the last days of Afghanistan. We had that suicide bomber, the Marine sniper, had him in his sights not once but twice, and was told not to take the shot. And I guarantee you the Israelis don't have those same rules of engagement. That guy would have been taken down, and those 13 brave Americans would still be alive, and those 50 or 60 others that were maimed or wounded or killed would still be with us in whole. So I'm very cautious about that. I don't know the Constitution, and I'm sorry I'm rambling a little bit. I had a lot of coffee this morning. But the truth is that, when you take the military, I'm not. My father, these guns behind me were actually guns my dad took off of Japanese soldiers that he killed in the Second World War. But they take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And I'm not sure what part of the Constitution American boys and girls dying overseas in the Middle East I'm not sure what that has to do with any part of our Constitution. So I guess you could say economic security, but I think we ought to let Israel fight their own war. And just like in Ukraine and everywhere else, we need to step back a little bit and let them handle that.
And you can ramble anytime, I promise. It's good stuff. But first off, my last question for you here, is going to be, what do you think the escalation could be from here? Do you think that this is going to escalate and there will be something larger there in the Middle East? Because we heard from Trump yesterday when he spoke on this, and he mentioned World War III, but then said, I don't want to say that just yet, because he said everything I say comes true. So what would you say about that? Is there that concern?
Oh, 100%. I'm a Christian, and I read the Bible, and of course you hear all these preachers saying it's going to end. This is it. But they need to go back and read their Bible, because it says not even the angels in heaven know when that time will come. But also somebody said this is escalating. This is the worst it's been, and I'm like, where have you been, man? This is over 2,000 years of this kind of nonsense going on. And so World War III is something everybody throws around, but World War III is not going to be like any other war. There's going to be a lot of buttons pushed, and a whole lot of people are going to get vaporized. And I don't want to go down that path, because we currently do not have an Iron Dome in this country. The Star Wars thing was something that was started, but and Trump's correct to say that this country needs something like an Iron Dome, because we are very vulnerable, and it's by our own doings. I mean, we allowed 14 million people over our southern border. We got over 100,000 communist Chinese in this country. We have known terrorists in this country. We have 5 or 6 cells that are more or less hit squads we think are in this country. So we've got we definitely need to pay attention to that. But I just don't think World War III is I'm around a bunch of macho guys a lot, and they're all puffed up about all this stuff. But like I said, my dad would tell you, I said, those tanks roll down the middle of the street. Those guys are going to be messing. They're going to be going to the bathroom in their mess kits, because that ain't, it's not pretty, and it's nothing that you want to see. So I hope and pray that never comes about.
Congressman Burchett, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and, of course, share your perspective as, we are gathering that reaction from all over. Thank you again for being here with us today.
Thank you, Josh. It's always a pleasure, brother.